All right, guys, welcome. So this is another training. So this is the first training of a three-part series, all about finding self-confidence as a man, and we will look at areas that are likely causing you to struggle in and being confident in yourself. Okay, brings us to point number one. Point number one is you don't have a long-term vision for yourself. Point number one, you don't have a long-term vision for yourself, and when it comes to being successful in life, is when it comes to making it anywhere, you need to know where you're going. You need to know the focus. It's like you think about, even if you're running places or if you're driving, you need to know where you're going to you need to look at what you're aiming for. What's that saying? I think Tony Robbins brings it in. It's like what you stare at, you move towards. So if you're driving your vehicle, say you're driving in a Formula One car or a NASCAR or whatever it is, and you're going around the bend, but maybe you lose a little bit of control, and you you lose control in a way that you can't. You're struggling to steer. What they always teach you is to stare where you want to go, stare where you want to go. So if you're maybe moving towards the wall or the barrier and you stare at the barrier, all you're going to do is go into the barrier, and just naturally you start to look and aim towards that barrier. Whereas if you start to aim your head, even your vision in the direction where you need to go, some way you'll find something in you to turn in the right direction to get yourself out of that spin. That's what they teach when it comes to staying on track when it comes in NASCAR or Formula One or any kind of racing and driving. So think of it like that. If your mind is not focused on something, if your mind is not focused on a particular target or a vision for yourself or a purpose for yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to find success. It's going to be very difficult for you to get out of the mediocre life or the average life that most of us find ourselves in, because you're not focused on something greater. You need to have a mindset that has a higher vision, that's focused on something above where everyone else is, above the average level of people. It has to be there. You have to have something to break out. It's like you see all these people who are successful. You got the sports stars, football stars. It's like in that society, in their environment, there's many people who would joke. They say, "Oh, you're not gonna. You think you're gonna be a footballer? You're gonna be successful." People will take the mick. People will say you're not gonna do it, or they're just maybe not gonna believe in you. And it can take a lot for someone to actually believe in you. To have someone say, "I believe you'll be successful." People struggle to believe in you, to believe that you will actually make it, to believe that you'll actually be successful. So you need to have such a strong mind, a strong belief, and a strong focus on that main thing. Have a GPS towards your vision, towards your goal, and that's what will make. That's one of the keys when it comes to confidence. When you lack confidence, when you're feeling weak or insecure, it's because you don't have a clear vision. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're aiming. When people don't have a clear vision, they're uncertain. They're unstable. They don't know where they're going. They can't. And you see it in even in sports, in boxing and martial arts, when you know the boxer isn't clear on his purpose, doesn't know his game tactic, or doesn't know what he's aiming for, or you see that the opponent has shocked him and the he can't get out his game plan because the opponent has overrided his game plan. They become lost. You can see even their hand grip isn't as strong. They become a lot more uncertain. And that's the same with your vision and your confidence. If you don't have that clear vision, if you're not focused on what you're aiming for, you will just naturally lack confidence and self belief in yourself. Okay, and that moves us on to point number two, which is you focus more on the opinions of others. You focus more. You focus more on the opinions of others. There's a time when I was so obsessed with what people thought of me, when I just really cared how people perceived me, how they saw me, and I didn't even feel comfortable speaking in a public place or in a group setting, just because I was worried how they would see me, or how people would perceive me when I speak. Turn the vibrate off, and for years I felt so uncomfortable, just like a fragile shell of a man because of this, and it took me a while, but eventually I got to a place from exposing myself, from meeting coaches, from doing seminars, to joining martial arts, and so becoming consistent with MMA, doing all these things, expose myself, and just being comfortable putting myself out there, and just stop caring what other people thought of me and what other people would think of me and how they perceive me. And the more I stopped caring, it's like the more I just started to flourish in life. And the funny thing is, the more people started to want to be around me, the more people started to just resonate around me and like being around me. And it's like the less you care, the more people respond. More people are naturally, they're more comfortable to be around you. And that's what I noticed. The more and more I stop caring and stop being emotionally controlled around emotions, I want my emotions to control me and direct me in life, rather than just focusing on my purpose, focusing on my goals in life, and not worrying too much about what other people have to say or what other people think of me, and just more about myself, what I want, what I'm going for. And then, of course, which moves us perfectly on to the next point, which was my faith. I'm worried more about what God thought of me, and and myself than the people in this world, because we're all on the similar kind of wavelength. So it's like, you don't waste your time worrying about people in this world. Like, and so that, like I said, moves us to the third and final point. You rely too much on yourself and not God. So you rely too much on yourself and not God. So like I said, I was focusing more focused on myself and not worrying about other people. But even that wasn't enough. That's not good enough. You can't just focus on yourself, because then you can fall into a place of being very hard for you to find fault in yourself, for one, or two, you can be very critical of yourself. So you can be on both sides of the spectrum when you focus solely on yourself. Because every time something doesn't go well, you blame yourself. Every time something, you fail at something, you blame yourself. You're the fault. You're the reason. You're the problem. Okay, but if you believe there's more to life than that, there's more to life than you, and you realize that, it's not just up to you. Sometimes things just happen, or sometimes it's just up to throw the dice, or the way God has laid it out, essentially. Or maybe that was a test that you were meant to go through, a challenge that you were meant to go through. But if you have that mindset and believe that there's more than just yourself, it's so much easier for you to be more comfortable in yourself, and more confident in yourself, and more focused on the important things. The Bible says in Matthew 11:28, it says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And that is essentially saying, when you come to Christ, when you come to God, and you just completely remove the thought that you are just the sole runner of your life. If you actually decide to trust in God, release all this tension in you to think that you are just responsible for everything, and just give it to God. It's like He'll take that burden, He'll take that weight. So any struggle you have, again, I guess, struggle you have with other people, struggle you have with yourself, it's like God will take that if you allow Him to, if you come to Him and accept Him, give your life to Him. And once I did that as well, it was like all these things came together. All these things came together for good. So focus on my future, focus on my purpose, clarity in my thinking. So stop worrying about what other people thought, and focus more on God and what God thought of me, and trying to be right by Him, and focus more on improving and bettering myself and working on myself. The more I did that, the more I found myself, one, in a place of complete comfort and peace. So just no matter what happened, I was just comfortable. And happy with myself as a baseline. Of course, there's going to be moments where things go bad. There's going to be things where I get annoyed or I make mistakes. But generally, my baseline is to be very comfortable in myself and happy with myself. And that's thanks to the choices I've made, and thanks to God as well, and having that focus in the right place. And also, I don't rely too much on myself, like emotionally. I don't feel like I'm this big important person that must get everything right. I must be perfect. It's like, no, I'm going to make mistakes, but I must learn from those mistakes, and I must learn and use the knowledge that I have to minimize the mistakes, and not do things that are too out of hand, or that will affect me greatly, or affect my family, or affect my purpose, or the people around me. It's having that right balance of thinking, right balance of focus and clarity. And the more you do that, again, the more you focus on a purpose, get that clarity, the more you stop worrying about other people, and decide to put more of your burdens on God, and not try and carry everything by yourself, but give it to God, place it on God, because He wants you to. He wants you to give it to God. All your stresses, your worries, your problems, your concerns, your pressures, give them to God, and He'll take them. He'll give you rest. He'll give you peace, and through that, you'll have this natural confidence in you, no matter what. Just from that alone. Yeah, so comment below and tell me what you've heard about the things that the things that you've heard of that cause men to struggle with finding self-confidence.